How many games does it take for you to realize it doesn't work? It's an interesting question. In fact, JJ Redick and Tim Ledger had this conversation when talking about James Harden and the Clippers, and they asked the question, how many games would you give them? And they ultimately came up with 20. 20 was the number. And I felt like that was fair. That's about a quarter of the season. You then get to see what you have, what you don't have. And, you make moves from there. But you've given it enough sample size, right? Maybe someone gets injured. A lot of things can happen. But 20 games is a large enough sample size for you to say, okay, this is not going to work. And make moves accordingly. I say that to say the Chicago Bulls are 5-7 and 5-12. We're about 17 games in, and by the time this hits most of you all, maybe 18. It ain't working. What the heck is happening in Chicago? Well, one of the things I will tell you was this. I don't believe that the head coach is the right head coach. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is P.kidd. This is P.kidd Talks NBA. I talk all NBA, but I am a Bulls fan. I'm from Chicago. It's my hometown, born and raised. I am a Bulls fan. So this is actually something that's a little more personal for me. It ain't working. And from what I see, the bet to go with continuity was probably one of the worst bets I've seen. Because it's clear on so many fronts that that's not going to work. I'll give you case in point. The reason why I sit there and say that is because you bet on continuity with a group that had not shown you in any stretch outside of two. There's only two stretches where this collectively, the city, the fans, and even the team looked great. There was one major thing there that's been missing for the rest of the time. It was a freaking point guard. Now, some people will sit there and say that I've harped on this way too long. I don't care. Judge your mama. At this particular point, we only looked good with this collective group when we had Lonzo Ball for 25, 35 games. That was literally like 3-4 years ago at this point, whatever it was. It's been that long. Like, that may be hyperbole, but it's been long. It's dog. No. And when Patrick Beverley was here. Outside of that, we've been very mid. DeMar have a couple games, close out, stuff like that, but we end up the season pretty much around 500. The epitome of mid. We've had great moments, very, very, but a lot of piss poor moments. That is, I mean, there's a, come on now, y'all see it. What's the common theme? Oh, when you had a veteran point guard in there who could put people in the right position, guess what? Things moved. Guess what we didn't go get? Guess who we didn't re-sign? We didn't keep the people in this room that would make the changes that need to be made or help the coach do so. Okay, let's move on from there. All right, that's an AK problem, right? That's an AK problem. That's a GM problem. You got to fix that, buddy. That's not cool. Not cool, my man. Not cool. But let's move on from that. Let's go a little deeper. We have the only consistent thing we have with our head coach is that he will be very inconsistent. The head coach, Billy Donovan, for some odd reason, will sit there and see somebody knock down 4 or 5 straight shots and say, good job, buddy. Have a seat on the bench. Good job, buddy. Hey, just pass the ball. No. That man's hot. Set that man a screen. Get that man open. Help that man do more of what he's doing. Don't stifle that. I've consistently seen Billy Donovan do it. Now, there are times where you'll see some players, like DeMar at times. He'll get hot. He's starting to roll. And then you are, babe, like, dang, but now I know he's going to take these next 8 shots. Ain't nobody else going to touch the ball. But at the same time, that's also something that happens that's a cultural thing. Here's what I mean by that. I watched the Miami Heat play Chicago. 2 things I noticed. One, when they really needed a bucket, whoever had the hot hand, they allowed them to get the ball back. I'll give you a case, but go back and watch it. Kevin Love comes in. Kevin Love played 15 minutes. I think scored 11 points. Hit 3 threes in a 2, or maybe he went to the line. But he hit 3 threes. You know, he hit those 3 threes within almost back to back. Almost. Maybe a play or two in between a couple, but like they made it a focal point to get him the ball back. Yeah, it was swing pass, swing pass, swing pass. Oh, we trying to get it back to him. Boop. Knockdown. Before then, guess what? Duncan Robinson had a nice little stretch. He go off. He hit 3-4 shots in a row. They kept feeding him the ball. And then when he missed, they allowed him to make plays for others outside of that. And everybody was in anticipation of that. Before then, Jimmy Butler did the same thing. What's the point? The point is they allow each other to be who they are. They allow the ball to find the right guy. And then once it has found the right guy, if there's something working, then they give it back to that guy. For some odd reason in Chicago, that don't seem to be working. I don't know whether it's how they. I know. I do know. I don't know. But I'm going to sit there and say, I personally feel this is how you're being coached and how you're being led. I've watched Bulls games with people who've actually played, and they're like, I don't really get why they did that. Like, I don't understand why they didn't go back to such and such, or why they play Vooch the way they play Vooch, or this, that, and the other. And that's another thing. That's another thing for continuity and consistency. Billy Donovan consistently doesn't put his best players in the best situations. I don't care when nobody says Vooch is not a shooting big man. He's a big man that can shoot. And I appreciate the fact that he's developed his game to the fact that he can knock down a three. But Billy Donovan, that man ain't no goddamn 3-point shooter. He can hit a three, which is great. But let that man do what he does. Have some sets there and make that the focal point. And unfortunately, it wasn't until this particular season where you saw him be a focal point at times. There's a lot of inconsistency, and that is his consistency. Billy Donovan does not know how to manage above average talent appropriately, in my opinion. He is someone who would acquiesce to Hall of Fame talent. I look at what he did with Westbrook, stuff like that. But you also got to look at that team. Like, you look at that team, you go back and look at that. There's a lot of young players on that team. And I've always said that he's really good getting young players up to speed. If we had no particular vets, if Zach wasn't on this team, DeMar wasn't on this team, Vooch wasn't on this team, I kid you not, we'd still have the same record, because I believe that Billy Donovan would get the most out of these young players who have not had this NBA experience and things of that nature. But you know what I also believe? That would only go so far. And because of that, that's where we are. Now, this may not sound like the best argument or anything for people, but it's just one of the key things I see. Billy Donovan is so inconsistent with his approach to the game that it's just sheer inconsistent. That's his consistency. And that trickles down to the players. You all want to you all want to vilify some players, and sometimes it's rightfully so, their point. But you have to understand this. Just like you go to work, you have a boss that you may not like, or a manager that you may not be fond of. And that person may not be doing anything personally to you, but they impact your work to the point where you don't want to be there. They impact your work to the point where you're not necessarily sure that, hey, I'm just here. I'm here. And y'all fortunate that I'm here the way y'all doing stuff, because this don't make no sense. We've seen people do that every time because that's your work. Basketball is these guys' job. This is work for them. The money doesn't matter at a certain point, because once you're in that space and everybody you're around is making money, guess what? It don't matter. You there to work. And when you are not being managed right at work, you feel it, you see it, it sucks, and you don't like it. So for people who sit there and say, well, these players need to be there, shut up. Because if you ever sat there and said that you don't like your boss, you don't like this, and you're kind of just there, you kind of mail it in because of how things are managed, and a lot of Americans have been doing that, you ain't got no leg to stand on in that conversation. Shut your punk behind up and just watch the game. Vilifying people because they upset at stuff that's happening at work that don't allow them to do what they know how to do. But you sitting there making with your job doing the same stuff. Shut up. That is a cultural thing. And when the culture is as bad as it is, you're going to get players who don't want to play. Players who are mailing it in. Players who don't seem to be bought into a system because it don't make sense and it don't work. That happens all the time in every aspect of life. Let's not just sit there and highlight these particular players. Now, some of these players do have to be a little more professional. I get that. But in this particular case, I don't think Zach, for one, has been anything but professional. I ain't hear him sit there and cuss out no coaches and stuff like that. I think we're just sitting there trying to make something out of nothing because it's going so bad. And when it's going bad, you get all these eyes on you. But these people are frustrated. They're tired. They don't want to be sitting there losing year after year. They want something different. They want to move, they improve. And the Bulls ain't did that. And when you're sitting there, again, you've already made millions of dollars. Most of these people on the court are millionaires, right? Let's be real. Everyone on this court make money. There's levels to it, but they making more money than the average bear. It's all about legacy. It's all about, hey, dog, my career is going to be completely, they're going to look at me completely different because of how things are going. This is going to impact my future opportunities. Like I'm trying to retire as one of the better or best players I've ever played. And you said that impacts all of that. People don't understand that. So I look at this and I sit there and I say, there's a lot going wrong with the Chicago Bulls. There's a lot going wrong in that environment. But I think a lot of it has to just do with the culture and not being set. It doesn't matter what other subset of players you get into this building. The culture ain't right. The utilization ain't right. And everyone feels it. But I want to hear your thoughts, man. I want to hear your thoughts on what is going wrong in Chicago. What is the problem? Why is it? Why are we 5-12? Why is it? What is happening? I want you to use this video in the comment section as your sounding board. Give me your thoughts. Whether it's love, whether it's hate, I'll be in the comments with you. Till next time. Peace.